Okay, okay, all right, so, don't go far. But if you need to step out for just a second, we'll give Sanja a couple of minutes. Good morning again. We will now officially gavel in the quarterly meeting of the Tennessee Board of Regents here at Cleveland State Community College. Before I forget, I want to recognize that Regent Miles Burdine from Kingsport is on the phone with us this morning. He was here yesterday and had an early morning commitment at home, which we certainly respect. Welcome, Miles. Hey, Miles. He may have us on mute. So why don't you just text him and double check, make sure we haven't lost him. In the meantime, I also want to recognize Senator Mike Bell from Riceville, who's with us this morning. Thank you, sir. And Representative John Fogarty, thank you for being here as well. We obviously can't do our job without our Tennessee General Assembly, and we are very grateful for your support. I had the chance, by the way, Senator Bell, yesterday to drive through Riceville as we went up to the TCAT at Athens. It is pretty country, so beautiful, beautiful spot. So, but thank you for coming to be with us this morning. And once again, as I mentioned in President Seymour's presentation, on behalf of the board, I want to extend our thanks to Alan and Janie Jones for having us last night, to the Creekside Pavilion for what was a very special evening. It's great when we all have time for fellowship and fun and great conversation. And as I said yesterday, Alan and Janie are very special to this community and two of the most generous people we all have the good fortune to know. So I just want to publicly thank them once again for what was a very special occasion. With that, let me stop. And Chancellor Tidings, I know your report is upcoming, but are there any opening announcements you need to make?
Again, thanks to Cleveland State, Athens, TCAT for your great hospitality over the last 2 days. It's been an incredible visit. We thank the staff at both of these colleges for the hard work that you do. Having been on a college campus and planning for a board meeting, I know what it's really like. So I thank you greatly for all that you've put forward. So to our two presidents, you are to be congratulated.
Absolutely, well put. With those good words, our board secretary, Sandra Mason, let's call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Governor Haslam, Regent Apple,
Here.
Regent Autry,
Here.
Regent Burdine, Regent Duckett,
Here.
Regent Green,
Here.
Regent Griscom, Regent Hatch,
Here.
Regent Krause,
Here.
Regent Markham,
Here.
Commissioner McQueen, Regent Mitchell,
Here.
Regent Prescott,
Here.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Here.
Regent Shockey, Regent Summons, Commissioner Templeton, Regent Varlin, Regent White. Madam Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. And although he wasn't present to say here, let's make sure the record shows that Regent Griscom is in the house. He's just stepped out for a call, but he is with us. So thank you. Let's move into transacting some business. And the first item is to approve our minutes, both from our March 29 regular quarterly board meeting and our May 30 special called session of the board. Are there any changes or corrections? And if not, we will entertain a motion to approve those.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Regent Duckett. A second? Regent Prescott, any discussion? If not, this is a simple voice vote. All in favor of approving those two sets of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Chancellor, we have, oh, thank you, Regent Burdine. There you are. We have the report in our packages, our notebooks of the Chancellor's interim actions, but, and I believe we'll need to approve these, but Chancellor, give us the background on your interim report,
Yes,
please.
thank you, Madam Chair. This report does constitute a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Thank you, Regent Varlin. A second? Second, Regent Apple, thank you. Is there any discussion or any questions for the Chancellor? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you. Exactly, exactly. We have 4 committee reports this morning, 3 from the work done yesterday, and finally from the audit committee, which we might need to move depending on Regent Griscom's availability, but let's play that by ear at the moment. First, I will call on Chairman Prescott for the report from Academic Policies and Programs.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. The Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life Committee met in a regular session yesterday to review and recommend approval of the following items: proposed program terminations, modifications, and new technical program implementations for TCATs. The committee approved 15 new programs, and there were a number of modifications for our information. So as committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of June 21st, 2018 meeting of the Committee on Academic Policies, Programs, and Student Life as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the work of academic policies. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Regent Varlin. Any discussion? If not, I think most everybody was here for that good meeting yesterday. All who approve those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. To Regent Markham and our good External Affairs Committee meeting yesterday.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Reynolds. The External Affairs Committee met in regular session yesterday to review the following items. Oh, thank you. The update on the External Affairs initiatives, the inaugural TBR Award Symposium, a marketing update. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of the June 21st, 2018 meeting of the Committee on External Affairs as presented. Approval of this report requires a voice vote.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, perhaps?
Yes.
Regent Varlin, thank you very much. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the External Relations Committee minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Now we will hear from Chairman Apple, who had an excellent Economic and Community Development meeting early yesterday morning.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Reynolds. The Economic and Community Development Committee met in a public informational session yesterday to review reporting on the following items: an update on TBR and ECD projects, a Tennessee trained graduation and update, the 2018 THAC Workforce Activities Report from all colleges, and the TBR ECD department's move to TCAT Murfreesboro at the Smyrna site. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of the June 21st, 2018 meeting on the Committee of Economic and Community Development as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you, Regent Markham. Any discussion? If not, one more voice vote on this round. All in favor of approving the minutes from the Economic and Community Development meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Regent Burdine. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the report of the Audit Committee, which met on May 30. And Chairman Griscom, we will call on you for the Audit Committee report.
Perfect timing. Thank you.
Indeed.
Yes. I've been known to make an entrance, so thank you. The Audit Committee met on May 30th, 2018, and with these agenda items. First, a review of the revisions of fiscal year 2018 internal audit plans. Most of the changes to the plans were made due to changes in audit priorities, including the addition of unscheduled investigations. Next, a review of the revised internal audit charters, which included revised internal audit charters for the system office and all community colleges. The charters were revised to better align them with current 2A standards. And then finally, a review of the system-wide internal audit budget for fiscal year 2019 was presented and approved. So as committee chair, I move the board approve the report from the May 30, 2018 meeting of the Committee on Audit as presented. And I so move.
Thank you very much. We have a motion, and I need a second, please. Thank you, Regent Apple. Any discussion on the Audit Committee report? If not, since this does require a roll call vote, since it does include some fiscal and other matters, and I will call on our board secretary to call the roll.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Autry,
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Griscom,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Markham,
Aye.
Regent Mitchell, Regent Prescott,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds, Regent Shockey,
Aye.
Regent Barlin.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, and there's lots of good work going on in our committees, so we thank you all. This is always one of my favorite parts of the program, and today is especially exciting as Regent Markham presents our Regents Award for Excellence in Philanthropy.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to present the 2018 Regents Award for Excellence in Philanthropy to Denso Manufacturing, Athens, Tennessee. It's particularly exciting that both of our host colleges for this meeting, Cleveland State and TCAT Athens, nominated Denso for this recognition. Denso Athens is a highly regarded regional partner dedicated to building stronger communities. Within the past 2 years, Denso has donated $200,000 to the Cleveland State Foundation. These funds have been used to purchase programmable logistic controllers, NIDAs, which is a hands-on electrical training system, and fluid power training equipment. Not only has this allowed Cleveland State to provide state-of-the-art training equipment, it has been a major part of their effort to completely realign their advanced technologies programs to better meet the training needs demanded by our workforce. Denso manufacturers are active participants in the Cleveland State Business and Advanced Technologies Advisory Councils. They've also been a founding partner in Cleveland State's new Mechatronics Honor Institute. This selective program will place high school graduates who enroll at Cleveland State in a paid co-op program with participating companies. Students will be in classes twice a week and on the job 3 days a week. Additionally, Denso employees regularly participate in Cleveland State's annual career fairs, and their HR staff have often served in interview panels. They provide support for judging and advising students and are regularly involved in STEM camps for area youth. They serve as guest speakers in classes, and they often provide tours of their plant for students. Denso has also been a vital partner for the TCAT Athens. Their support and participation were key to the success of the LEAP grant. With the leadership of Denso as well as other key manufacturing leaders, TCAT Athens was able to develop a plant managers association that has helped to strengthen the workforce efforts of their educational and government partners. They're an ongoing member of the Machine Tool Technology Advisory Program, which provides key insight into the specific needs of the employees. In addition to ongoing technical support, Denso provides critical financial support in the way of scholarships and equipment donations. Denso is a long-standing supporter of the TCAT Athens Scholarship Program, making an annual contribution which over the years has amounted to nearly $50,000. Recently, they awarded a grant of $50,000 to purchase robotic equipment for TCAT dual enrollment programs at 4 area high schools. In addition, Denso was a major contributor at the TCAT annual signing day. Finally, Denso is the primary sponsor of the McMinn County Annual STEM Camp, which served 60 students last summer. Clearly, that Denso's philanthropic mission goes beyond monetary gifts. Their sense of giving is as broad and committed to the highest levels possible. They give of their people, their time and energy. They provide advice and expertise. While also beneficial to the company, they give because they believe it's the right thing to do. They're truly committed to serving the whole community. It is with great pleasure that we acknowledge Denso Manufacturing, Athens, Tennessee, for their contributions, time and resources that they have contributed positively, transforming an impact on Cleveland State Community College, its students, and the community. On behalf of the Tennessee Board of Regents and its member institutions, I'm pleased today to award this Regents Award of Excellence in Philanthropy to Denso Manufacturing, Athens, Tennessee. Mr. Hugh Cantrell, Director of Administration Services, will receive the award. Welcome and thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hugh Cantrell, and I'm a member of the team at Denso in Athens, Tennessee. I'd like to welcome you to this region and I'd like to welcome you to Cleveland. As a native of this area, I'm really proud of this area and glad that you're here. It's with great honor that we receive this award today. It's a special award for us. I do have several members of my team that were largely responsible for receiving this award, and I'd like to introduce them to you today.
Please have them stand.
If you guys can stand or come on down. Starting with the left, J.D. Phillips, right behind him, Sherry Engel, Crystal Renner, and Aaron Holbrook have been integral in our activities, and I greatly appreciate all their efforts and their contribution. Thank you very much. This really is a special award to us today, and I really remember back 22 years ago when I started with this company, and I was in a meeting with our global president, and we were meeting with one of our major suppliers, and he ended the meeting by telling our supplier that what's good for you is good for us, and that's truly how we feel about participating in the community. We really feel like we need to be a partner with the educational institutes in this area to help provide the resources to make the workforce for tomorrow. So we appreciate all your help and appreciate all your partnership, and we look forward to a bright future together. Thank you very much for this award.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think we're going to take some pictures, but before that, I think we may have a comment.
Okay. Oh, please.
Hi, I just want to say how incredible Denso is, not only in Middle Tennessee, but in East Tennessee. Denso Manufacturing, the culture of that company is just unbelievable. They truly believe in community partnerships, as our wonderful Regent Markham has said, but I've had the benefit of working with our East Tennessee Manufacturing Denso, and they are just as incredible. We don't really understand how grateful we are as a state to Denso in our state, because they not only provide jobs, but unbelievable people that support our community, not just monetarily, as was said. And we are so grateful, Mr. Cantrell, to Denso Manufacturing as a company, and I'm sure in every community in our country where Denso is located that it is the same story. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts, not only in this community but across our state, for the work that Denso does. We wish we had 1 million of you. You are the poster child for what we would love in both corporate and community partnerships. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Chancellor and Emily will join us, and Senator Bell and Representative Fogarty.
Okay. Photos. Make our way down. Do we need to go that way? Okay, all right. Oh, you gotta get the award, importantly. Do you wanna come down and be in the photo?
Good to see you.
As Regent Markham put it so well, you can't ask more when people give of their time and their resources and their energy and their people. And as Regent Varlin reflected, their heart as well. So our thanks to Denso Manufacturing. And I just mentioned I had a chance to, when we went on our TCAT Athens visit yesterday, to see the plot of land that will be acting on around the capital projects that this new regional center will go in, conveniently located just across the street from Denso Manufacturing. So it's all very exciting. So well done. It is now time for our report from the Chancellor, and we have three most interesting items today, including I'm hesitant to say it, but an oldie but goodie who returns to speak to us this morning. So, Chancellor, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and we do have a lot of great things to bring to you today. Early last year, when I arrived at the system office, we began to meet with all of the individuals at the system office. We as a board had a strategic planning session, which resulted in the priorities that we wanted to focus on for this year. And from all of the discussions, all of the determination of what our priorities would be, we set about for a very ambitious goal, all of which revolved around student success and workforce development. Internally, we called our project the 365-Day Project. We gave ourselves a year to look at what we were doing, what we needed to accomplish, and where we were headed. We kept the large chart, if all of you remember, that came into my office with the graph showing all of the goals that we had set and where we were on each one of those goals. They were very specific goals that we were ensured that would move us toward our goal of student success. We knew that we needed to restructure and realign the system office to reflect the tremendous change that the Focus Act had brought to us and to ensure that we truly operated as a unified community and technical college system. We grouped our work under several broad categories, which were our major strategic planning goals of structural reorganization and alignment, improved communications, accountability, and effectiveness. Now that that first year has come to an end, those 365 days are over, I do want to report to you what that looks like. The chart that I am about to show you starts out with green circles, and as the circles turn green, that reflects that we have accomplished the goals that we set out. And I understand that you cannot really read what is written in those circles, so we will pass out to you a chart that has that information written on you. But the main thing is to see our entire chart has turned gray. So we're very proud of what's been accomplished by this board, by this system over the last year and 4 months. So on July 2nd, our Shared Services Center is scheduled to go live, and many of all of the goals for the Drive to 55 with our presidents and with our student success initiatives are either accomplished or ongoing as we had predicted that they would be. I also want to update you on some of our other important noteworthy events. Want to recognize two individuals that are in the audience today, Vice Chancellor Thompson and Dr. Ashford, who have been selected for the Harvard Young American Leaders Program. Would Vice Chancellor Thompson and Dr. Ashford please stand and be recognized? They were recently selected for the 2018 class. This initiative is a part of the Harvard Business School's U.S. Competitiveness Project. 11 cities from across the country were selected to send 10 representatives each. Tennessee was the only state that had 2 cities represented, and Dr. Ashford and Vice Chancellor Thompson are 2 of only 3 community colleges in the system that will be participating this year. The Young American Leaders Program was created by a faculty team at Harvard Business School and was launched in 2015 to develop leaders who understand cross-sector collaboration to create shared prosperity in their cities and who can implement them more effectively and spread them more rapidly than in the past. Class members gathered on June 10th through the 14th at Harvard for an intensive 3-day workshop. They worked on case studies developed from actual regional and city projects from around the country and then provided feedback to the Harvard Business School faculty on how cities can utilize cross-sector collaboration to be more successful and increase U.S. competitiveness. Again, please join me in congratulating these two individuals. Board members, I'm also proud today to say that we have with us our 2017-2018 class of Maxine Smith Fellows. This is the final meeting of this class, and over the last 7 months, they have been sharpening their critical thinking skills, getting leadership development programming, and learning more about TBR as a system. We've also learned much from our Maxine Smith Fellows. These are wonderful individuals who have gone about doing great things in our system, and we know they will continue to do so. Board, would you please, and audience, help me in congratulating our group of Maxine Smith Fellows. Would you please stand and be recognized? We know you are our future, and we know our future is bright. So thank you for what you're doing. Also, I would like to report to you today our presidential appointment. The Board of Regents met in a special session on May 30th and unanimously appointed Dr. John Mandrell as the next president of TCAT Murfreesboro. Dr. Mandrell served as the Vice President of Academics and Student Services at Sauk Valley Community College. He began his career in higher education at this college in 2008. And during his tenure has served as Dean of the Instructional Services, Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice, and an adjunct instructor. Prior to joining Sauk Valley, Dr. Mandrell was a police corporal with the Oregon-Illinois Police Department. He holds a Doctorate of Education from Ferris State University and a Master's of Arts and Bachelor of Science from Western Illinois University. Dr. Mandrell will begin his leadership of TCAT Murfreesboro on July 1st. Dr. Mandrell could not be with us today because he is on his annual fishing trip that he needed to do prior to starting this new job. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Mandrell to our system. And of course, in welcoming Dr. Mandrell, that means that we also must acknowledge and thank our interim president, Dr. Carol Purrier. I'd like to recognize Dr. Purrier at this time for the excellent job she did in keeping the ship afloat, in moving it forward, in making some needed changes that needed to be made at Murfreesboro, all while still wearing her Vice Chancellor for Economic Development hat. Would Dr. Purrier please stand and be recognized? And a quick update on our Northeast State Community College President search. Criteria for the president's position was approved at the March 29th quarterly meeting. Advertising for this position will begin on July 1st in all of our various higher ed publications and online. Greenwood, Asher, and Associates are beginning to reach out to individuals to apply for the position. The Search Advisory Committee Chair is Regent Tom Griscom, and other regents on the committee include Vice Chair Reynolds, Regent Miles Burdine, and Regent Danny Varlin. The committee will also be representative of faculty, students, administration, support staff, student affairs, alumni, the business community, as well as university representation. The first meeting of the committee will be August 16th, and it is our goal to have the next president in place beginning by January 1st. In our shared services, I mentioned to you earlier that we would be going live with our TCAT shared services effort on July 2nd. Our goal was to have payroll, HR, and financial and procurement up by that time. We're happy to report that we are meeting those goals. As you recall, for many years, the community colleges have served as the lead institution for our TCATs and have performed these services for those colleges. During the next fiscal year, we will continue our work to transition the TCAT student information system from its current system being used to the Banner student information system. The student information will then be a part of all shared services center as well. Additionally, on July 1st, we'll be turning our attention to the community colleges and focusing on our efforts to get their ERP, finance, HR, procurement, and payroll moved into the single instance of Banner that can be supported from the system office. While processing would stay at community colleges, we will be managing the single instance of Banner now from the system office. Again, a heavy lift for our system office. Would all people who have been engaged in this process from the system please stand and let us give you a huge round of applause and thanks. They're not here because they're working on it. It has taken an army to get that off the ground, and so much gratitude and thanks to everybody from TBR who has been working on this. And it is now for us time to hear from somebody very important to our system, to talk about the history of the Tennessee Board of Regents. Dr. Rhoda really needs no introduction to most of you in the room, but for the newer members of our board and for the audience who don't know him quite as well, you might say that Dr. Rhoda is what we are calling Mr. Higher Ed in Tennessee, or as Mike Krause and I called him earlier today, the king of higher ed in Tennessee. He has led both our TBR system as chancellor and the Tennessee Higher Education Commission as its longest-serving executive director, from 1997 until his retirement in 2014. He also has served as interim president at Austin Peay and Nashville State. Since his retirement, he has served as dean of the College of Education at East Tennessee State University, and he currently heads the Center for Community College Leadership based at ETSU, which serves the system very well by training our most promising faculty and staff to become future leaders. Dr. Rhoda holds a doctorate in higher education administration from Vanderbilt and has served as a faculty member at Vanderbilt's top-ranked Peabody College of Education. Dr. Rhoda approached me last year about the idea of a TBR history project, and there is no more wealth of information or greater individual to do this project than Dr. Rhoda. He is a true scholar and uniquely qualified to lead this project. So he's going to tell you a little bit about it. If you would, please welcome Dr. Rhoda to the podium.
Well, thank you. Great introduction. Emily. Better than
Hers was
older. Yeah. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Chancellor, members of the board. It really is a pleasure to come before you this morning, and it is to talk about, very briefly, what I think will be a very worthwhile project, and that is an oral history of the Board of Regents system. So still very much in the concept stage, but here is the current thinking, and again, your thoughts and recommendations will be very much appreciated. But essentially, the idea is to conduct and assemble a collection of video interviews with people over the years who have been instrumental in the history of the Board of Regents, and that's the board itself, and certainly the institutions, but going back to when it first started in 1972 to the present day. So the individuals to be interviewed would in fact be past and current governors, board members, presidents, campus leaders, students, faculty, and community leaders, all that have been involved. And so my props for today goes back to really bringing this to life, and this was, for a few of you who have seen this, this is a book that was written some 40 years ago about the history of the community colleges in Tennessee, and some in the audience were involved in writing that, but it's about, from each campus has a chapter on those early days, and so it'll be bringing that current and bringing that to life, essentially. So I think the timing to do this is significant with the new Board of Regents, with the Focus Act, and a number of the institutions, I guess all the institutions celebrating 50 plus years anniversary. So great timing on that. So the concept, it would be a collaborative effort with the board staff, certainly the institutions, and the ETSU Center for Community College Leadership, all playing a part. The thought would be that of course everything will be electronic, but the archives as such with these interviews would be housed with the Board of Regents on their server. The institutions certainly would be asked to contribute. They're the ones with the wherewithal as far as the film production and their expertise, and then ETSU, the Center for Community College Leadership, would coordinate the interviews and scheduling and conducting the interviews. So We would be pulling together existing material as well as generating new material. And so it would be a living document, as it were, and constantly increasing. So we hope that there will be links to the archives on websites, the board office, ETSU, each of the campuses, THEC, Mike, hopefully, and it'd be very much in the public domain. So the value, obviously, the way we look at it, this would be a way of preserving, the personal accounts of those who are very much a part of the history, the defining moments, the major events. Students could be engaged in the research as well as the production of these interviews. The archives could be a valuable resource to the institutions themselves as far as their research of their histories. I think it also could be a valuable resource for those interested in Tennessee higher education policy and research, like lessons learned from the past as far as looking forward. And we believe this would be another way of generating some interest in the Board of Regents in your institutions, whether it's at the community level or at the institutional level. ETSU is actually thrilled to be a part of this, and we could surround this with roundtables, symposiums, conferences, all related to the history. So in essence, that's it. I mean, the Board of Regents has a story to tell, stories to be told. Some of the individuals on camera, on campus, will just bring these things to life, and it's just something I hope we will all be very much engaged in. So those are my comments, and certainly appreciate the Chancellor and her support for all this.
May I ask Dr. Roda a question? Obviously, you're going to conduct this symphony, which I think is a fabulous idea, and I really appreciate your leadership on this. But you're going to be willing to be part of this archival interview process as well, I hope, because it's all in your head.
Well, that's kind of a scary thought, isn't it? Yes, very much so. And I mean, hopefully all of us will be involved. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Can you give me or give us a couple of minutes just then on the community leaders, a community college rather leadership program at ETSU? Because I know we all know of its existence, but I'm not sure we're perhaps as plugged in as we might be.
Yeah. Well, a brief update, and some of you were very much involved in that, in the thought about this. So I guess it was 3 years ago at this meeting, at the June meeting of the Board of Regents, that the center was approved. It was established when ETSU was still part of the Board of Regents. So we're finishing up. There are three components. There's a graduate certificate program, 4 credit, and that's up and running. We're a cohort program. We're finishing up our second cohort, and we have one of our current soon-to-be graduates with us, Alicia Fox. So that's been very well. We've maybe some 30 students have come through that. We're looking forward to our third cohort starting this fall. So that's pretty much in place. That was our priority. But 2 other things will be the idea of professional development in partnership with, obviously, the Board of Regents. What can we be doing for presidents, for emerging leaders, for existing staff that would have some academic heft to it, but not for credit. And then the third part would be would be policy research. And we're already working with, Dr. Deaton and THEC, Mike Krause have just been great as far as sharing that with us. So it's still very much in the early stages, but it's up and running. And again, it's just all about actually the Board of Regents. We're broadening out. We're working with the community colleges of Appalachia. Chancellor Tidings was a keynote speaker at their annual meeting just last week. So that's kind of the regional footprint.
Great.
But no, it's up and running, doing well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. And I guess y'all noted that word retirement truly does not fit him at this point. Maybe we all do retirement so well. The next part of my report to you today is to bring to you Dr. Deaton to come up and talk about an economic impact study that we have been working on in conjunction with the Department of Economic Development. I think that we have all intuitively known that the system does have a tremendous impact across the state of Tennessee, but we've never quantified that with any true impact study. So part of one of those dots that you saw on the slide earlier was for us to determine exactly what the impact is that we're having across the state of Tennessee. We began work on this study to determine that. It underscores the significant and substantial contributions our colleges, our system, our employees, our students, and our graduates are having across the state and its economy. So Dr. Deaton, if you would please give the report.
Thank you, Dr. Tidings, Vice Chair Reynolds, members of the board. Thank you for the chance to talk to you a little bit about this study. It is on the website. It's available for all of us to consume, both the full study and an executive summary of it. When we were asked by Dr. Tidings to do this, we began to look around for potential partners to help us with this. This is beyond our internal capacity, and this is a particular area of expertise that requires economists and those trained in this area. Well, as we began to look around, it became apparent that within Tennessee government, there is both the capacity and perhaps more importantly, the desire to do something like this in partnership with TBR. And we found that in the state's Department of Economic and Community Development. And later on, I'll ask the authors who are here to stand up and be acknowledged on this. But it's an example of the kinds of interstate partnership that are important to all of us in higher education and in economic development to do something like this for the state and for the Board of Regents. As you can imagine, the data for such a project is intense, and upon request, we flooded the authors with all the data they asked for, everything from interpersonnel data about numbers of faculty and staff, not at the person level, but capital project information, budgetary summaries, all sorts of stuff. But what came out of that is not a jargony, dense product. It is a very readable and accessible summary, as the study says, of the reach and impact of our schools, TCATs and community colleges. There are two main aspects of this, which I'll summarize here. The first thrust of a project like this is to look at what is the economic results of the presence of a campus in its community. Just like any business would have an impact on both worker salaries, the economic activity in the area, and then more importantly perhaps for us is how do we then think about the extra earnings power our graduates have when they leave our campuses with credentials. So those are the two main aspects of this study. Starting with the second one first, the study summarizes that second aspect in the slide in front of you, which is that taking a cohort of graduates from 2017, throughout their entire working career, they will be earning almost $1 billion in income. These are broad estimates, of course, but of that, and that's the second bullet, $224 million is earned because they came out with a post-secondary credential. And that's an annual number. Then you compound that over time, you can get a sense of the scope of a project and the degree impact that they would have. So that's the result of the individuals and the economic impact for them. This is broken down several ways. Obviously, the salary and benefits for those individuals is the main part of that $224 million. That's what the additional income is on that slide. And you see the increase in benefits, et cetera, at the bottom. But that middle bar is just as important. That is the increase in labor force participation that's a result of our students getting credentials from our schools. And to get some numbers on this, the labor force participation rate is around 70% for those who do not have a post-secondary credential. It's about 77% for those with a post-secondary credential, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in economic and macroeconomic terms, that is extraordinary and that is significant. So about 7 percentage points more likely to be employed and additional earnings because they have the credential from one of our schools. And then secondly, you look at the impact of the institutions themselves. And first, there are about 10,000 jobs supported by our institutions. That, of course, as you heard from Vice Chancellor Gibbs yesterday, we employ about 6,000 people in round numbers. Well, then there are another 4,000 or so that are the result of the economic activity around and a result of our campus's presence in their communities. That's the direct and indirect and induced jobs. And then the last two bullets are the impact on the economic activity in that area. And the third bullet is sort of the summary number. There's about $1 billion of economic output. Think of this as the effect on the gross domestic product of Tennessee, the effect on GDP of our schools and the presence in their communities. Of that, about $600 million, the last bullet, is the value add, as those dollars multiply through their communities, as they spread through the economic activity in their areas, that's the value add that is present from our institutions in their areas. So those are the two main parts of the study. Again, the full details, and the report's only about 15 pages long, so it's not dense. I encourage you to read it. I encourage all of our schools to use it as they see fit when they're talking to folks in their community about the reach and impact of the Board of Regents. Finally, let me highlight and acknowledge, in a moment asked to stand, reps from the Center for Economic Research in Tennessee, which is at the State Department of Economic and Community Development. The authors of the study are here, Sally Avery, Jeremy Stiles, and John Patton. Let me ask you to stand, please. And I want us to acknowledge the work they've done. Again, they were great partners throughout this. They were patient with us getting them data and with questions we had, and quite patient with me, particularly in making sure I correctly understood and interpreted what they were finding, because they took a lot of complex phenomenon and boiled them down into what I hope is a very digestible product for you here today. So Sally, Jeremy, and John, thank you for the work you've done. And again, the floor report will be on our website. Happy to take questions if there are any.
Russ, let me thank you and your team for what you did. If everybody I hope has read the governor's Bloomberg interview about battleships and aircraft carriers, which I thought was very interesting. I want to bring it in here because it's great to see these numbers and lifetime earnings and things like this. I would hope that you all would also go in and maybe take another cut at this that looks at the type of programs that we offer and how those programs are aligned with the business needs in this state. For example, that we know we've got a concentration in welding programs for this reason. We know because of a lot of the things going on in the trucking industry, things like that, that we're looking at ways to really identify programs, put resources against those that meet the job requirements in the state. So while this is great, I hope that you all might find time to go in, because I think that to me also is a great way to go out and talk about and particularly talk about with legislators of support that we're asking for at a time where I think there may be further challenges to tuition increases and things like this, that what we're doing is we're supporting programs that are aligned with the type of jobs the state's looking for. Right. You get these programs, you get an additional post-high school education, you've got an opportunity to make this much money going forward. But to get there first, we're offering programs and aligning them with what we know the opportunities are. So I would just hope that you all would keep working this and look at that as another piece that I think has a lot of value to it. Thank you.
That's a great point, sir. And if I may, there's another study that is underway that hopefully in the future we can bring to you, the Dr. Tidings Commission, that would, Regent Griscom, sort of dig into that question and to give you a sense of what it would do. It would put the following data on the table for reflection. First is, let's examine where there is significant need and demand for additional educational investment. Where is there entrenched poverty? Looking at the distressed counties, where are unemployment rates disturbingly high? Where's their demand for education, where population is growing? But then that second layer would be going through the occupational demand studies that have been produced at the THEC level, at the Boyd Center level, and drilling into that region, a local workforce development area, and saying, what can we know about the specific jobs that are in demand in that area by occupation with real data, and overlaying that again with that first layer, which is where's their demand, which then I think leads us into providing some analysis to the very question you asked. That is something that's underway. It's probably half to two-thirds finished. Excited by bringing that to you in the future, but it would get at that phenomenon I think you're asking us about.
So now that we have this, kind of as a follow-up to what Tom was saying, particularly with state legislators, do we intend to communicate this more publicly? Okay.
Very much. Well, again, it'll be publicly available. We plan on weaving it into comments we make both during the session, next legislative session, during Rotary presentations, wherever we can make this more publicly, where it resonates with both our public and legislators, we plan on doing so, yes, because it's a good story to tell.
Russ, how do you access it on the web? I'm here trying to
I think it won't post until we get back today, so that's
Okay.
my fault. It's
Okay,
not
no
there yet, but it
problem.
will be. And we'll make sure, and we'll send a direct link out to the board once we're back, yes. Yeah.
I think one of the really important values of this study, and this is something the Chancellor joins me with regularly, is our advocacy for higher education generally before the General Assembly. And this study is the powerful narrative. One point I do want to make, though, and Dr. Deaton heard me make this at the last THEC meeting, this Tennessee higher education is in a remarkably strong funding position. So 2 data points, and they tie in with this. First, we are the #1 funded per student state in the South. Second, we are 13th in the nation right now. And so a lot of the advocacy that TBR has been doing, and THEC and UT as well, I think is paying off. The ability to maintain that momentum during a gubernatorial transition will rely on this data. And so I really appreciate, because this will help all of higher ed. And also would love to put in the plug for the TBR has not been guilty of this, but the woe is me attitude towards funding is not appropriate in Tennessee. We've been incredibly well funded. It's mostly due to the great stories we're able to tell, though, which are from your colleges. This data will put a really fine point on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Russ.
Banks. Thank you.
And thank you again to ECD. The one point that I do want to again harp on is that this was 2 state agencies that came together to produce this result. When Russ and I began to first talk about this, and the talk was about, do we have to get a consultant to do this type of work? My hair turned very gray when we talked about that, and so when we realized that our friends at ECD had the capacity to do this, we could not have done it without your support, so thank you so much for what you did. Next part of my presentation is to again introduce someone else to you, or 2 other people to you today, to talk about our Reconnect update. Since Governor Haslam unveiled his plans in January 2017 to expand Tennessee Reconnect program from its limited beginnings, we wanted to make sure that it was available to virtually every adult Tennessean without a post-secondary credential. Our system and our colleges have been preparing to welcome what we hope will be a very large number of new adult learners returning to college. Immediately after the General Assembly approved the program, we established Reconnect teams on each of our campuses and designated Dr. Heidi Lemming, who is now our Vice Chancellor for Student Success, to lead these efforts. We've worked very closely with THEC and Director Krause to make sure that adult learners know about this tremendous opportunity that is available to them, and to make sure that we are ready for our students when they come. Regent Krause and Vice Chancellor Lemming, would you please give us an update on this? I think Dr. Krause was going to go first.
And I will be very brief. One thing I've learned in this job is often my best opportunity is to get out of the way of smart people at our agency. And so I'm about to get out of the way of Jessica Gibson, who's leading our Reconnect work, and I think she and Dr. Lemming are kind of joined at the hip. Let me give a really quick context point. An under-recognized fact about THEC is we're really 2 agencies. We're also the Student Assistance Corporation for the state of Tennessee, with about $500 million in aid flowing out of the agency each year. When we launched Promise, we thought a lot about how to reach those students, but the reality is guidance counselors do a lot of that work for us. We knew when Reconnect was passed, this would require a fundamentally different pipeline. Some of you may have seen the ad campaign that, again, I want to thank Chancellor Tidings and especially Virginia Moreland and Rick Locker, who were kind of just with us throughout that entire campaign. It was a great run of commercials. And at that time, once we were trying to draw adults back to the opportunity, please reconnect with higher education, I had hoped we would get 5,000 to 8,000 applicants. I'll keep you in suspense, but I will tell you we have had more than that. And so we have a challenge ahead of us. It is one that I am really excited about because of the work Chancellor Tidings just mentioned, that Dr. Lemming and your presidents are leading on the campuses. I would just say that quote that Dr. Seymour showed at the beginning, though, will be the key to success for Reconnect. We cannot ask these adults to be more college ready than they already are. Our campuses will have to be ready for them, and I think they are. and the work that's been going on the last, at this point, almost 18 months is pretty remarkable. I want to ask Jessica Gibson from our team to come up. For big initiatives to work, it's got to be somebody's 24/7 focus. This has been Jessica's 24/7 focus for years, and also Mary Laffin from our team is here. And Jessica, if you would just please update the board on where we stand in terms of applicants, and I think Dr. Lemming will then be able to share the campus perspective.
Thank you and good morning. Just a moment. Sorry. Well, I'll start talking. So the legislation that was passed was signed into law last year by Governor Haslam, and thank you very much. And we reconnected. The grant itself becomes available this fall. I know that you're aware already of the eligibility requirements, but I'll just run through them really quickly. A student must be classified as an independent student according to FAFSA. They must be a Tennessee resident for at least a year. They can't have earned an associate or bachelor's degree already. They have to be admitted to an eligible institution, and they have to participate in a college success program through the Tennessee Reconnect Community Initiative as determined by THAC. I'm going to talk about that more specifically in just a moment. Once a student is enrolled, they must enroll in 6 hours per semester continuously, and they must maintain a 2.0 GPA. What the Tennessee Reconnect grant is doing, it is reducing significantly the tuition barriers that keep adults from enrolling in college. But we know that adults come to the table with very unique challenges that are very different than traditional age students. They have children, they're working, they may have child care needs, they may have other financial issues, they have lives. And so how do we work with those students to make sure that their lives don't come in between their goals to finish a degree? So what we want to make sure we do is connect adults to the resources and support that exists, but also to focus on enhancing and improving those resources over time. So this is where the College Success Program comes in. I want to talk about the two main sources of support for adult learners in Tennessee. Of course, the institutions themselves, and then also the Tennessee Reconnect communities. And if you're not familiar with them, these are locally based collaboratives. They're focused on engaging adults in the community, bringing them into higher education, and supporting them to and through. Each Tennessee Reconnect community employs Reconnect navigators. They provide the service free to any adult who wants to go back to college. They're high touch, they're locally based, they're institution neutral, and they help students navigate what are often complicated processes through higher education, through financial aid, before they even enroll in the college, and then are there to support them throughout. We want to make sure, again, that those students are connected to those resources. So when an adult applies for the Reconnect grant, they fill out the application on the TSAC portal. It's a very simple application. It's identical to Promise, except that there are additional questions that have nothing to do with eligibility, but help us determine what some high-level needs are for them. So as soon as they hit submit application, a Reconnect success plan is generated for them. This is really a resource map. So we match the answers to their questions to resources and support offered at the institution they select, and to resources that are available through the Tennessee Reconnect community, which they are a part of. This is very important because we've heard from a lot of adult learners that they're unaware that there are some of these support resources available on campus, for example. And it helps the institution also see what some of the needs are of the students coming in so that they can adjust accordingly. What we know so far to date is that we have received 21,000 applications since February 15th. Yes, more than 8. This is more than 8,000. And last Wednesday it was 20,000. So we're still receiving 750 to 1,000 applications a week for the Reconnect grant. This is incredible, but there are lots of implications for our institutions, for our communities around this. So I want to share it with you a little bit about what we know about the applicants. 85% of them have filled out the FAFSA, and 79% of those are eligible, according to FAFSA. We know that 57% have children. We know that 87% plan to work while they're enrolled. Of those who plan to work while they're enrolled, 65% plan to work full-time, 30% part-time, and 5% multiple jobs. So when we hear national data, these numbers are always surprising, but these are higher than we see in the national data because this is not just a sample, this is the universe of the Reconnect applicants. 88% have internet access at home. This was very surprising, and I don't think it's telling us what we think it's telling us. I think it's telling us that 88% of people who filled out the application online have internet access at home. We still have areas throughout the state of Tennessee that do not have broadband access. So we need to think about how to open up our high schools, how to open up our colleges, to bring in students to help them apply. We also asked when they prefer to take classes. 50% say they can take classes anytime, which was really surprising, which means either there are some unrealistic expectations or perhaps we're seeing a lot of shift work. We're not sure. We're going to have to dig into that a little bit more. 25% prefer nights and weekends. When you break that down, only 1% actually prefer weekends and 24% prefer nights. Also another surprising number there. 25% prefer online programs. This is important because as we know, the Reconnect grant does not cover online fees. When we think about reconnectors, we often think of those with some college no degree. We're really pleased to see that 1/3 of applicants have no college history whatsoever. So we're opening doors for adult Tennesseans that may have felt that those doors were closed to them forever. Annual income. 46% of applicants are making $25,000 or less. 74% are making less than 50 or 50,000 or less. Our final question is multiple choice, and an applicant can select up to 3. We ask what their most pressing concerns are about going back to school. These are the top 4. Finances, family responsibilities, work demands, and time management. I have to dig into finances. Reducing tuition is important, but people are still paying rent, and they're still paying for childcare, and they're still paying for gas. And these are college finances for adult learners. What's interesting is what doesn't show up in the top 3. They could also select academic preparation, physical or learning disability, using technology to do coursework, and accessing support services on campus. Doesn't mean these aren't going to be challenges, but it means that the adults are seeing these top 4 things as challenges, and these happen to be the things that can cause a student to drop out again. So again, making plans and helping the student make plan A, B, and C is really important for this population. So what's next? We know who's eligible according to the FAFSA, but who owes money to a previous institution? What are we going to do about that? I know there was legislation passed this session around that, but there are other things that may happen. So we want to know, we really want to dig into who's eligible, and then who enrolls, and who doesn't enroll, and why not? And then who persists from fall to spring, and then of course from fall to fall. How do institutions respond to this adult learner population? And what are their observations of this group of students coming in? And then collecting and connecting the data for action. We're very, very excited. We're going to be the only state in the country that has this much data on adults. We will be able to connect the data from our community partners with the e-grants, so some financial aid data, and then eventually to the student information system. So we're going to be able to track these students in a way we haven't before, and I think there are other opportunities perhaps to connect more data sources so that we can intervene when it is necessary with non-academic interventions, which I know a lot of the institutions are doing already. So it's kind of a high-level overview right now, an update of Reconnect, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Could I ask you one? In your breakdown of the 21,000, how many of them are going to be in more urban areas? How many more are rural? I'm interested, you know, that if in fact that 21 is basically spread out, so our institutions, you know, that maybe are in more rural areas are planning for it, or do you find, like, since I'm in Chattanooga, that there's more looking at an urban city like Chattanooga just because of the population spread?
We are seeing that because of in the high population centers, we have more applicants. We do have some rural areas that have a greater number of applications than we would initially assume. Often we have outreach from institutions and from the Tennessee Reconnect community partners that help in getting the word out. We still have some deserts, and we could actually provide you with a heat map if you're interested around the state by county, kind of what we're seeing in terms of population there.
And Tom, they're actually providing to the colleges once a week an update on the numbers for each college. So they're getting it down to that specific of a level.
So what projections have you done on out of these 21,000 applicants? What are our matriculation projections? I mean, who actually is entering our door?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
And I think what we, and Heidi and I were just talking about that this morning, we need to, our data sources aren't connected, but we need to find out from what we know, and then from what the institutions are seeing, what the application numbers look like, and then how those application numbers are converting to enrollment numbers. So that's something we're thinking about. We just don't have a clear data connection yet on that.
You know, with Promise, we had the benefit of a Tennessee Achieves model in 23 counties. And so that's why the Promise projections ended up being within like literally $100 in terms of expenditures per student. There's nobody that's ever done this. And so we'll be learning together, certainly. I would say that we're not that worried about the costs though, because the vast majority of these adults, we can see their financial aid eligibility. And I think the Pell Grant's gonna play a huge role in bringing the adults into the system with, maybe we have a higher number than we had anticipated, but the state cost will probably remain in the ballpark.
Okay. We do know that about 43% of applicants have an EFC of 0 at the moment.
I think we're going back to Regent Griscom here.
One more. So when I look at your numbers in here,
yes,
I hope we can figure out how to capture this so all of a sudden our graduation numbers don't just tank, because we brought in a new cohort of students who are somewhat different than what we have now. But if you look at your data, and if they're going to be working full-time and all this, they may not come in to say they're going to complete within 2 years. I mean, so I hope part of what you're thinking about is how to make sure that we capture that and capture their behavior and what they're looking for to complete, so that we don't then all of a sudden come back and we see a completion number that was moving, then all of a sudden it falls again, because we put in a new cohort of students and we hadn't tracked their behavior and their completion schedule, what they were looking at.
Absolutely, yes.
I've got a couple questions to Regent Grissom, to follow up with him. I wonder about the age of the students, because if you have someone that's non-traditional, that could be someone that's 21 that just didn't make the right choices right out of college, right out of high school, versus someone who's 40 or 35 that's got more of an established family life.
Absolutely. The average age is 36 of the applicants right now. Of course, that's a large range. We have I think someone who's 82, and then we have a couple of 22-year-olds, I believe. So the average age is right around 36 right now.
Okay. And the second question is, help us understand more about that Reconnect community. Is that very similar to the mentors that are affiliated with Tennessee Promise?
They are. The Tennessee Reconnect community navigators are actually employed. That's their job. They're paid to do this. They are community-based. We will be centralizing them in the coming year, but they are they're higher touch than the mentor because of the needs of adult learners. So some adults need more high touch than others. Some are ready to go. Some need help. You know, somebody's in default on a student loan. How do we help them through that process, for example? So those navigators can work with them there. The navigators can work with them on strategies to balance work life and school. If they have child care needs, there may be resources that they know about locally that they can connect to as well. So one of the big things we're going to do in the next year too is make more formal connections between the Reconnect navigators and the colleges themselves as well. So hopefully really streamlining the resource provision at all points, even before someone's enrolled, even when someone's just interested and wants to know more.
Can I ask a question about that? When you say they're local, we're talking about the Navigators. Are they housed in another local nonprofit in communities, or,
Yes.
explain that a little bit?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, THEC was able to award startup funds to communities across the state. And we let lead organizations be who the community thought they should be. So we have, for example, in Nashville, it's the Nashville Chamber of Commerce. For Memphis, it's Leadership Memphis. We have several different types of organizations that are taking this on. And so the Navigators are housed within those. We provide training, competencies, expectations, and the model. Now, in the coming year to 18 months, we're actually going to be centralizing those Navigators under THEC, but they're going to still live in the communities, and we're going to still have community partner agencies.
So is THEC paying the salaries of the Navigators, or
indirectly now?
organizations?
Yes, through grants to the communities, and will be more directly in the coming years.
Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to share a little bit more detail about what we're doing at the institutional level to prepare for the influx of what we think will be an influx of adult learners this fall. To answer some questions that have just recently come up about the Reconnect applications, I do have a chart here as of the 13th of June on the total number of applications by institution, and then you can see the eligible applicants. So while we have over 20,000 applications, roughly a little bit more than 17,000 are the ones that are actually eligible. So there is a difference there. Of course, our institutions are working to get the students who might not have filled out the FAFSA yet to do that, so they become eligible, that sort of thing. But you can see there, as noted, major metropolitan areas obviously have a higher application number. And I do send this out, as was mentioned, to our campuses weekly so they can see how that's moving. Want to talk a little bit about institutional readiness as this comes online for fall of 2018. As you'll recall from my fall report to you all on our Reconnect Academy, we had our institutions develop an institutional plan to look at services in 4 areas: enrollment management, advising and career, academic initiatives, and student support. And they were to identify things that they wanted to improve upon or put in place as we prepare for adults to arrive on our campuses. We did regional site visits with the teams in the fall to check in, and I have recently asked them on their progress on these plans. So I want to share just some highlights in each of those areas about what our campuses are doing. The first is under enrollment management. We see many of our institutions working on the development of gift campaigns for books and supply scholarships. So again, Reconnect doesn't cover some of those other expenses, and so they're looking at ways to provide that assistance, restructuring of existing scholarship funds. Now that they'll have that assistance through Reconnect, how can we shift our scholarships? Looking at expanding our information sessions and adult learner orientation. So again, what are some specific ways that we can meet the needs of our adults when they come to us to prepare them for what they should expect when they are taking courses in the fall? And the other is, obviously, we are looking at how our satellite campuses are serving adults, supporting that enrollment process, and many of our campuses are scaling up staffing there. Under advising and career, one of the interesting ways that our campuses have looked to reach adults, because many of them will take online courses, is how we do virtual advising and looking at interesting ways that that might happen. To the point of how you engage an adult to stick with it if they're only taking 1 or 2 courses. An example from Roane State is they're embedding internship experiences into their programs. We know through our high impact practice work that adults who participate in work-based learning experiences have a much higher retention rate than adults who do not. And so looking at ways that we engage them in the classroom is really important. Southwest has invested in bringing in NACADA, the National Organization for Advising, to do some training with their advisors and career advisors. And of course, we're scaling, hiring additional success coaches and advisors to support these students. Under academic initiatives, we talked a lot about prior learning assessment. That work is ongoing, looking at how we stack credentials and articulation agreements. We've mentioned that in reports before. Faculty training on how they can really serve as adult service advocates. So Pellissippi State's doing a great job with that, really trying to make sure that all of our faculty know about the resources since they are the frontline individuals working with students. And the adult learner cohort by program model is something that we're seeing. So while the 25% saying that they're, interested in weekend, evening options, and only 1% is really weekend, there is some indication at some of our campuses when they're talking with employers that their students would be interested in these cohort weekend models where they come in for an extended period on Friday night, maybe Saturday, and knock it out quicker. So the question on the survey doesn't specifically get to that kind of model, so the student might be thinking just an hour class on Saturday or Sunday. They might not be as interested in that. There is some indication that within our community colleges that there are groups of students who would be interested in a cohorting kind of model. So we've got some expansion there, obviously in online and evening courses as well. And under student support, we've been working on our Beyond Financial Aid initiative for several years. That's continuing. So again, it's the scaling of emergency aid, food pantries, partnerships with local providers for mental health services. These are all challenges because in some areas you have those resources, others you do not. So that's an area that our campuses continue to pursue. Looking at technology workshops to, again, prepare the adult for what they're going to encounter when they come to campus, summer bridge programs, and online tutoring services, because, again, we know that a lot of our adult learners will take online courses. So at this point, I would say on average, we're about 62% complete with our plans with the fall 28 deadline ahead of us that ranges anywhere from 25 to 100%. We've got many campuses that are 100%. Another 20% of those goals are partially complete with still the anticipation that they'll be ready for the fall 2018 deadlines. So some areas for work. Prior learning assessment is one that takes a little while to work out with faculty. So we've got some institutions who are still working through that process, and that's where they'll probably do that through the continuing year past the fall. Alternative course scheduling also has been a challenge at some of our campuses. Overall, we continue to focus on training. So adult pedagogy, supporting adult learners, how we do that with faculty, how we do with that staff, that will be ongoing because we have new folks joining our campuses every year. And then the enhancement of the career planning piece, looking at where we can do additional work there and partnerships with local industry as well as just from a technology standpoint, how we provide that. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you all might have about institutional plans.
Thank you. The work that's being done here is really outstanding, and I think what you're talking about is so important because if our schools and institutions are not ready, it's really a lost opportunity because if we've got this many people applying, then the need and the desire of this adult population is greater than we even thought. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, and you certainly are covering the gamut, but in terms of ongoing, because no matter how much data you're picking up and how much you're looking at it ahead of time, ongoing, we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, adults have things that come up, or they might not have even known something to mention, or they don't even know for sure what kinds of things are going to be really trouble areas. And it's interesting to look at the areas that they indicated would be their barriers because they're real life barriers. They're not even thinking it. It's kind of nice that they have that sense of confidence that they can approach the academic issues and those kinds of things, but those are things they don't know. So I guess my questions are, on an ongoing basis, are our institutions establishing processes of early warning, things that will be there with these adults from day one and really pick up with them before it's too late? Because again, this is the population that would be, or those are the things that really cause dropouts. So
absolutely. And, you know, a lot of this work we do with our traditional age students too, in terms of early alert.
absolutely.
So it applies to both populations. We, at the system level, are continuing our work on advising and training folks, bringing folks together to share best practices in advising, looking at technology for early alert systems, how we can better connect our data. So all of our campuses have something in place for early alert, is whether or not it's connecting different pieces of data together in one seamless way. And so there's some technology things that we'll be working on in the coming year to make that happen.
And then one other question about the prior learning experiences, because one of the things I think is true is that sometimes adults don't know how to recognize in their own lives or their own previous careers what might be considered a prior learning experience that could get them credit. So I'm assuming there's a way to work and help to have adults thinking in that direction, so that they themselves can say, well, I think this that I've done would maybe constitute a prior learning experience.
Sure, and that would be part of the advising process as well. Yeah.
Jessica and Heidi, thank you so much for the work that you're doing at the state level. You truly have been the champions of Reconnect, and we know that we're going to have great results because of all the work that you've put forward. So thanks to both of you. Madam Chair, that concludes my report for today.
That was quite a report. So now, you mentioned your 365-day plan. Now that the first 365 is behind us, are you all reconnoitering to look at the next?
We are planning for another 365
Excellent.
that we'll bring to you, and begin working with the board as well for your input on that next step. So,
Yep.
yes,
You're
ma'am.
obviously well on your way, but I
We
was
are,
just
we are
curious.
well on the way.
Okay, that was all very impressive. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Heidi, Dr. Deaton, and Dr. Rhoda. All very well done. We will turn now to unfinished business, and I will call on Mary Moody. We have a proposed change to the bylaws.
At the March quarterly meeting, we gave notice in accordance with Article 7 of your bylaws that we were going to propose a change to be adopted at this meeting. The change is for being made for the purpose of aligning with the SAC COC requirements that require governing boards to define and regularly evaluate their responsibilities and expectations. And so the bylaws, in your package, you have the proposed amendment to the bylaws. The bylaws shall be amended by adding the following language as Article 9. Article 9 will be board self-assessment. In order to regularly evaluate its responsibilities and expectations, the board shall conduct a self-assessment every other year beginning in 2018. In the years that self-assessments are conducted, assessment forms will be provided to the regents to be completed and returned to the board secretary after the September quarterly meeting. The board secretary will share the completed forms with the vice chairman. A board assessment report will be produced by the vice chairman and the board secretary and shared with other members of the board at its December quarterly meeting. This is the language that we're proposing that you adopt as an amendment to your bylaws.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have a motion to approve this bylaw change? So moved. Thank you, Regent Barlin. A second? Second, Regent Duckett. Any further discussion or questions? If not, since this is a bylaw change, we do need a roll call vote. Sanja?
Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Autry?
Aye.
Regent Burdine? Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Griscom?
This Miles, I said aye. I had on mute.
Thank you. Appreciate your votes. Regent Griscom?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Markham?
Aye.
Regent Mitchell?
Aye.
Regent Prescott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds? Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Varlin?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We will now be compliant with SACS, and everyone will get a board assessment here in the fall. Also under new business, I will now call on Regent Duckett for our Finance and Business Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, we will review the report of the Finance and Business Operations Committee meeting, which was held on May 30th of 2018 and on June 21st, 2018, which includes tuition, maintenance, fees, and mandatory fees for 2018-2019 fiscal year, funding for operations for the 2017-2018 and 2018 and 2019 fiscal year, capital budget request for fiscal year 2019-2020, and recommended revisions to policy 4.01.03.00. After multiple meetings over the last 6 months, the committee report before you takes into account the financial condition of our institutions and include recommendations on maintenance and tuition and mandatory fees. Before I summarize the committee report, I would ask Chancellor Tydens for any comments that she might have.
I thank the board for their support and consideration of this for our students. After careful consideration with the Business and Finance Committee, with our Business Operations Department, it was concluded that this was a wise move on the part of the system.
Thank you, Chancellor Tydens. As a reminder, the recommendations for community colleges is an increase of 2.7% with the 3% increase is recommended for the TCATs. We estimate this raises approximately $8.1 million that will be used by the institutions to fund priority needs. In its report, the committee recommends approval of the operating budgets for the colleges, TCATs, and the systems office totaling $1,121,000,000 for fiscal year 2017-18 and $1,086,000,000 for fiscal year 2018-2019. The recommended budgets are based on the level of state funds recommended in the governor's budget, as well as early estimates of factors such as enrollment growth and availability of federal funds. The full effect of the approved fee increases and any enrollment changes will be included in the October revised budgets. In addition, the committee considered the estimated and proposed universities' local government institutions budget under the board's policy on consideration of university budgets. You will recall this policy was developed to guide the board's consideration of university budgets under the Focus Act. Within its report, the committee recommends approval of the university local government institutions budgets as required by this board's policy. Recommended capital budget request for 2019-2020 fiscal year was provided totaling $227,750,000 for fiscal year 2019-20 through 2020. Recommended policy revisions have been made to policy 4.01.03.00, payment of student fees and enrollment, as a result of legislation passed by the legislature earlier this year. This legislation requires system colleges and TCATs to release transcripts of students who have outstanding debt to any other system college or TCAT for the purpose of transfer if the student signs a repayment agreement for the debt. Diplomas will not be issued until the debt is paid. Additionally, the threshold amount within record hold, enrollment holds, or purging of students for non-payment if the debt owed is less than $25 has been changed from $25 to $100 to align with the legislation. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the reports of May 30th, 2018, June 21st, 2018, meeting of the Committee of Finance and Business Operation, which includes maintenance fee, tuition and mandatory fee recommendations for 2018-2019, the operating budgets for fiscal year 2017 through 2018 and 2018 through 2019, the capital budget request, and the recommended revisions to policy 4.0103.00 as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Regent Griscom, thank you. Any discussion? It's a lot of work on finance and business these last few weeks and months. Hearing no further discussion, this also requires a roll call vote. Sandra?
Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Autry?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Griscom?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Markham?
Aye.
Regent Mitchell?
Aye.
Regent Prescott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds? Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Garland? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Our second item under new business is the Personnel and Compensation Committee's report. Regent Hatch.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. The Personnel and Compensation Committee met in a regular session on June 21st to review and recommend approval of 6 items. They are as follows: tenure and promotions recommendations for community colleges and Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, faculty promotional increases, institutional requests for new or amended compensation plans, system compensation strategies, executive incentive compensation plan payments, and president emeritus contracts. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of the June 21st, 2018 meeting of the Committee on Personnel and Compensation as presented.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Markham. Any discussion or questions? If not, one more time, a roll call vote on this important matter.
Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Autry?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Duckett? Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Griscom? Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Markham?
Aye.
Regent Mitchell?
Aye.
Regent Prescott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds? Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Garland? Motion carries.
Thank you. Good work, everyone. Thank you very much. Mary, back to you. We have a review and approval of a TBR policy.
Right. As you know, we're in the process of reviewing all of the existing policies and guidelines with the eye towards streamlining and consolidating as necessary. And one of the things we've identified are guidelines that, and as you know, under the current structure, guidelines only require the approval of the President's Council, while policies come up to the board for approval. But guidelines should be attached to a policy. They should be implementing an existing policy. So we have identified some guidelines that don't have a policy attached to them, and they're important guidelines, so we've decided those should be made into policies. And so the first one of those is coming to you today. This is the guideline on records management. Lost my place there. And there are no substantive changes to the, well, there are some substantive changes to the guideline once you make it a policy. We are in the process, too, of aligning our records destruction and archiving standards with state guidelines. And so that's what we're doing today. The Records Commission adopted some new ones, and we're just adding those to our standards in accordance with what state law requires. So the motion before you today would be to approve transferring this guideline G070 into the policies, and we will number it accordingly in the governance and general policies, and then adding the additional RDAs that the State Records Commission has approved. I recommend that you approve that.
Questions or discussion for Mary? If not, we need a motion to approve the, thank you, Regent Varlin, a second? Thank you, Regent Prescott. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The motion obviously carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now enter a bittersweet time in our agenda as we tell some folks farewell, but they will always be part of our extended TBR family, just as Dr. Rhoda is a perfect example. And first, I will call on Regent Prescott to do the honors for our faculty regent.
Thank you. It's my pleasure today and privilege to present a resolution of appreciation for the service of Mr. Larry Autry as faculty regent for the Tennessee Board of Regents. Whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session at Cleveland State Community College in Cleveland, Tennessee, wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Mr. Larry Autry for his service as faculty regent, and whereas he was appointed to this position by the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the State of Tennessee, for the 2017-2018 academic year, and whereas he has fulfilled his responsibilities as in an exemplary manner by contributing to the governance of the institutions within the purview of the board by sharing his concerns for the faculty within the board system and for educational quality, and whereas he has provided leadership, guidance, and expertise to the board in the areas of articulation and student life, and has represented his colleagues and students of the TBR system with unwavering and distinguished service, and whereas Regent Autry's education, extensive background, and many years of experience allowed him to reinvent the industrial electricity program that has become one of the largest programs at TCAT Ripley, and whereas because of Regent Autry's efforts to improve the industrial electricity program, the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development awarded a community development block grant of $376,000 for equipment, and whereas his passion for teaching and for the welfare of all students is evident through his work to encourage students in Skills USA competitions and helping them discover their highest potential, and whereas Regent Autry cares for his community by chairing the advisory committee for the industrial electrical program that meets with industry leaders to discuss the skill needs of the community, and whereas he actively devoted his time and attention to deliberations within the Committee on Academic Policies, Programs, and the Committee on Finance and Business Operations, where he brought invaluable insight from the campus level, and whereas during his tenure with the board, he unfailingly fulfilled his responsibilities through active participation in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system, and whereas he is an individual of high integrity and wisdom and with a sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education in general, and whereas his tenure has been marked by selfless support of the system and a number of his individual institutions, now therefore be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents system expresses its sincere appreciation to Mr. Larry Autry for his dedication and contributions to the board and its institutions, and extends best wishes to him in all his future pursuits. Madam Vice Chair, I move the approval of this resolution.
Thank you. Well done. Very well said. Do we have a second? Second. A unanimous second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Say aye. Thank you. Obviously none opposed. Regent Autry, we thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and wow, can you believe how fast this last year has gone by? It's truly been an honor to serve with such an amazing group of people, and also to meet many amazing people from the colleges across our great state. I'm very proud to have been a part of the progress that I've seen made over the past year, and I've been able to make memories that I'll always cherish for the rest of my life. Thank you for the honor of being able to serve with such great people and to meet so many amazing people throughout the last year. Thank you.
Thank you. pleasure and honor has been ours, and we thank you. So do not be a stranger, and we know you'll keep up the good work. So absolutely, we appreciate you. Our second resolution will be offered by Regent Varlin this morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is my privilege to offer the resolution of appreciation for the service of Mr. Jeremy Mitchell as Student Regent for the Tennessee Board of Regents. Whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session at Cleveland State Community College in Cleveland, Tennessee wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Mr. Jeremy Mitchell for his dedicated and valuable service as Student Regent. And whereas Mr. Mitchell was appointed Student Regent by the Honorable Bill Haslam, Governor of the State of Tennessee, for the 2017-2018 academic year. And whereas he was a student in Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning program at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Pulaski. And whereas Mr. Mitchell has continued working full-time as a foundry manufacturing supervisor, managing 52 employees during 2 separate shifts while earning his diploma from TCAP Pulaski. And whereas he served as president of the TCAP Pulaski Skills USA chapter, providing leadership in the statewide Skill USA competitions, and it was among the first group of student leaders from the Colleges of Applied Technology to participate in the statewide SGA President's Council administered by the TBR's Office of Student Success, providing an important voice and representation for technology students. And whereas Mr. Mitchell's contributions to higher education are commendable and have included providing insight on important issues concerning legislation impacting students and student life on TBR campuses. And whereas he proudly represented the board by attending and speaking at building dedications, legislative events, receptions, and the Columbia State Community College 2018 spring commencement, where his wife Sunny was among the graduates. And whereas he has used his experiences and unique perspective to devote considerable time and effort as a member of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and the Economic and Community Development Committee. And whereas during his tenure with the board, Mr. Mitchell unfailingly fulfilled his responsibilities through active and eager participation in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system. And as a board member, he has been an instrument of positive and effective change. And whereas he is an individual of high integrity and wisdom and truly a sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents systems and Tennessee higher education, and whereas his tenure has been marked by selfless support of the system and a number of its individual institutions, now therefore let it be resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Mr. Jeremy Mitchell for his dedication and many contributions to the Tennessee Board of Regents system and wishes him well in his future endeavors. Thank you. Yes, making a motion that we, yes.
Second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Of course not. Jeremy, here you go.
Thank you, guys. That really sounds like I've done a lot. It doesn't sound like the guy that I am, but I have been busy. It's been very fun. I am honestly and truly blessed to be around the company of folks that I am. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot about education that I wished everyone had the opportunity to learn, to see what goes on with the folks on the board and obviously the folks in the audience that really are the backbone of this institution. It's amazing what gets done. I can't speak enough good praises for you guys and those. It's been an honor. As Mr. Archer said, it's flown by. But it's been humbling. It's been an honor. It's been great. Thank you guys so much. And the words you just read were beautiful and wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Aw. You've taught us a lot in return, believe me, and we've enjoyed having you with us every step along the way. And the nice thing is, you too will be part of our extended TBR family forever, between your degree and Sonny's degree. And we have little Mitchells who will come through eventually, so that's right. So, and we do hope you'll keep us posted on your careers and next steps. So we appreciate you. Thank you. Well, this moment, I just as soon skip over this item on the agenda.
It's okay, we could vote on that.
Exactly, we could indeed. But I'm afraid Dan Markham may be watching. So oh, Regent Duckett, would you do the honors for Regent Markham?
I will be glad to do the honors, but I must say personally, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge it with mixed emotions, because Fran has been a true supporter of higher education, and I've enjoyed working with her for the years. And as I shared with her when I got the email note that she was leaving the board, it confused me because I knew she had just recently been reappointed. So I was concerned from a personal perspective that something was going on with Fran that we didn't know. However, I quickly learned upon inquiry that she wanted to take time off and spend with family, and I truly respect that. But in that regard, it is my pleasure to read a resolution of appreciation for Regent Frances Markham, and it reads, whereas Regent Frances Fran Folk Markham was appointed by Governor Phil Bredesen to serve as the 4th Congressional District Representative on the Tennessee Board of Regents in 2004, was reappointed to a second term in 2010, and was appointed by Governor Bill Haslam to a third term in 2017 to represent Middle Tennessee at large, and has served with distinction, honor, and integrity for 14 years. And whereas her deep and abiding commitment to education was nurtured as a student in the public schools of her hometown of Tullahoma, Tennessee, was reinforced as a student in Vanderbilt University's Peabody College of Education, where she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in 1967, and was demonstrated by her service as an elementary school teacher in the public schools of Nashville, Chattanooga, and Savannah, Georgia. And whereas that commitment continued through her volunteer service as a member and officer of the boards of numerous educational institutions and organizations, including as a trustee and former chair of the Motlow State Community College Foundation, past president of Hands On Science Center of Tullahoma, founding member of the Tullahoma Educational Foundation for Excellence, founding member of the University of Tennessee Alliance of Women Philanthropists, former member of the Peabody College Alumni Board and Vanderbilt University's Campaign Committee, former trustee of the Webb School of Bell Buckle, a former commissioner of the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and an advisor on the Belmont University's Center of Entrepreneurship. And whereas her dedication to public service and the betterment of her fellow citizens extended beyond education to other civic endeavors, including service as an active member of Rotary International and of First United Methodist Church of Tullahoma, as founding member of Partners for Healing, a free medical clinic for the uninsured in Coffee County, member of the Board of Directors of Hawthorne Hospital, a former board member of the Nashville branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, and a member of C200, an international organization of women executives and entrepreneurs whose mission is to foster, celebrate, and advance women's leadership in business. And whereas her dedicated service on the Board of Regents has included countless hours of support to the system, its institutions, faculty, and students, including 2 terms as vice chair of the board from 2005 to 2007, and whereas she also served as chair of the board's former Business, Community, and Public Affairs Committee, and the committee former Tennessee Technology Centers Committee, and as member of numerous committees during her tenure on the board, including continuous service on the Personnel and Compensation Committee since her appointment in 2004. And whereas she has provided great leadership as chair of the External Affairs Committee for 4 terms since 2014, including valuable advice and oversight in the creation of the new Office of External Affairs. And whereas Regent Markham faithfully believes that hiring the best possible leaders for our system and institutions is among the most important responsibilities of a regent, and whereas she graciously devoted her time and energy as chair of presidential search advisory committees for Rome State Community College and Motlow State Community College, and additionally as a member of search committees for TBR Chancellor and for presidents of Walter State, Columbia State, and Nashville State Community College, and the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Crump. And whereas she and her husband, Mr. Dan Markham, have been generous in their support of Motlow State Community College, where the Markham Technology Center is named in their honor. And whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents system is a more efficient and respected system of higher learning because of her zeal and devotion to success of students, faculty, staff, and alumni of Regents institutions. And whereas she is an individual of high integrity and wisdom with faithful commitment to the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education. And now therefore be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Regent Fran Markham for her years of service rendered and leadership afforded to the Tennessee Board of Regents. Madam Chair, I recommend approval and formally move approval of this resolution.
Thank you, sir. May we have a second? Second. Regent Varlin, Regent Prescott, thank you both for that second. Why don't we pause at this point when I ask for any discussion, and if there are comments that our regents would love to make, this is the time. Regent Varlin, you want to go first?
Sure. I just want to thank Fran, particularly when I first came on the Board of Regents. You were so helpful and so welcoming, and helped educate me on what I needed to know just with the utmost kindness. And that's how I've seen you every day with every person from our student regents and faculty regents who come on and off to all of our new board members. But you have been a fantastic leader and a fabulous friend, and my life is better for having known you. So thank you so much.
Mary Lou Apple.
So I love you for so many reasons, but I really enjoyed working with you on the board, but I've known you as a neighbor, a supporter of Motlow, a lover of students, of higher education, and for all those things, I deeply thank you and Dan, because your lives have demonstrated your love for that and your commitment to making Tennessee a better place. And we are sorry to lose you, but I'm really happy for your time with your family.
Regent Prescott?
Thank you. Fran, I had spoken to you earlier, but I just want to say what an honor and privilege it's been to know you. And I told you that when I first came on the board that Son just said, you know, there's someone I really think that you're going to like, not that she didn't mean everyone, but she mentioned Fran. So I looked for her the very first meeting that I had, and true to form, Fran, you were just so warm and inviting, and honest to goodness, I didn't know all those unbelievable accomplishments that you have, because my high regard for you is for the heart that you have, for the love for your faith, for the way that you care about people and about students and children. And it's just been a real honor to know you, and just look forward to hearing about your travels and all those things.
Regent Griscom?
So Fran, I'm gonna miss your hugs.
Aw.
Thank you so much. And please say to Dan too, because I've known both of you, how much I appreciate the fact that he allowed you to be part of us. And now we're happy for him and for you to have that time together again. But thank you.
Oh, Regent Summons, were you going to say so? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, Regent Green, sorry. Thank you.
So when I came on the board last year, I connected right with Fran, and I think I just bombarded her with 10,000 questions. And she responded each time with a smile. I'm going to miss your smile. I'm going to miss the influence that you've had on the board. We were talking yesterday, and I'll say it again, but although your fingerprints won't be here, your footsteps will be in all that you've done. So thank you for loving us so much and giving back to TBR.
That was beautifully said. You have made us all better people, and you've made us all better regents, and we love you very much. Thank you. Oh, getting a little teary. We have a motion and a second, and some wonderful words that have been shared about our friend. All in favor of approving the resolution honoring Regent Markham, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Fran Markham, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you all so very much. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. It's truly been a blessing in my life. I am a better person for having served on this board. It's been a privilege and an honor to work with the nation's best educators and administrators. This board is incredible. I have lasting friendships on this board. And the friendships are things I can take with me. I will cherish those. I'll take all of that with me. The staff here is incredible. They're the best. They're the hardest working, dedicated. They're a joy to work with. I have to say farewell to my friend Sanja, who was there the very first day. She's been there. She has gotten me out of so many different things. She's always there for whatever I need whenever I call her. I know she was there the first day you were there, and she'll always be there for you. She's our mother, our sister, our friend, and I thank you, Sanja. I'm so proud of the changes that I've witnessed in my brief 14 years here in higher education. The growth is incredible. This campus is a great example of serving student success and the amazing growth and the difference that we're making across this great state. Chancellor, you're on track. I'm so impressed with the leadership that you have in place. Our vice chair is doing a great job, and all the leaders that we have in place. You're building buildings, you're building minds, you're building futures, and you're building a great new brand for our state. Thank you for letting me be a part of that, and thank you all so much for your friendship. I take that with me. Thank you.
I have a little something for you.
Oh, my
Almost
goodness.
forgot. And it's our beautiful TBR paperweight with your years of service.
Oh, my goodness.
And you're from
it wasn't
sneaking up from behind.
And this is from Sanja. I just had some thoughts, but Sanja put it all together, as you know. So, just a token.
goodness, my goodness gracious. Thank you. Thank you all. Lovely. I miss you.
Sandra, get in here for a picture while we've got Matthew down here.
There you go.
It's not often you get to tell Sandra.
Exactly.
Come in, Emily.
Okay.
I better turn around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where to put this? We got more business.
Thank you. Beautifully said. I love the line about, yes, we're building a brand and we're building buildings, but we're building minds and futures. Thank you, as always. Well done, and with such grace and dignity, thank you. For our last item on the agenda, I will turn the floor over to Regent Duckett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time on the agenda, it is time for us to elect the Vice Chair for 2018-2019. In that regard, what I would like to do is just open the floor for any nominations for Vice Chair for next year. Yes.
I would like to nominate Vice Chair Emily Reynolds.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close nominations, and given that that is the only nomination, a motion to approve by...
Need a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Vice Chair, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you once again for the honor. This is, for all of us, serving on this board is one of the great honors of our lives, as both our faculty and student regent have pointed out. And I am grateful for your counsel and your friendship and your commitment to our Tennessee Board of Regents. So thank you. We will have another exciting and busy year together. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Chancellor, before I take care of our closing housekeeping items, do you have any closing announcements or comments?
Again, I want to tell our regents that are leaving us, thank you so much for the service that you have given to us as a system. Your shoes will be very hard to fill, and you have left an indelible mark on us as a system. So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you. We have shared success stories today and recognize there's still lots of work to be done, but it is a very exciting time. And that glass, as Dr. Seymour said earlier, is quite full, and that's a good thing. We will continue this conversation in September as we head to Dyersburg State, of course in Dyersburg, Tennessee. For calendar planning purposes, we will be there with committee meetings on Thursday, September 27, and then back in our full board meeting on September 28. For the board, you have at your place our blue survey sheet. Sandra always appreciates us filling those out, and we'll compile those results, and they're actually quite helpful in this important planning process. Matthew mentioned it yesterday, but to the outstanding crew at Tennessee Tech, we thank you for the live stream services you have provided us over the years. I think we're going to try this on our own going forward, but you have certainly brought a tremendous degree of professionalism to this good work, and we are very grateful for your service. To President Seymour and President Smith, this has been a pretty special session, and we thank you all so much. President Smith, did you have any closing comments or announcements for us? Or President Seymour, sorry. There he comes. And we will all remember his provocative question of the morning: is your college ready for students? That is a different way of thinking, and that was great perspective.
Well, thank you. I stole it from somebody else, but it's still pretty good.
Okay, it is good.
On behalf of Cleveland State, our students, faculty, and staff, we want to thank you for being here. It's been an honor. to serve you and provide this opportunity for continuing the work of TBR. We appreciate it very much. And Stuart and I have been a good team. It's great to collaborate. In fact, we're going to be leaving here in just a few minutes to go up and meet in Athens and talk about a new center that we're proposing, which will be a collaboration between the two colleges. But so many people put their time and efforts into coordinating this. This is the first one that I've hosted, but I very much appreciate the fact that we had many people who did all the great work. And so we're going to have a little party afterwards when you're all gone. But thank you very much.
Thank you to your team. And as I always jokingly say when we're on the campuses, because as the Chancellor referenced earlier, we do know how much work goes into this. You are happy to see us come, and we recognize you were probably even happier to see us go. But we are very grateful for all of the hard work and the hospitality and the warmth and the spirit that we've experienced on both campuses these last couple of days. I think with that, if I was reminded in our history presentation earlier, remarkably enough, this board will have a 50th anniversary in 2022, which will be here before we know it. So something else to look forward to. If there is no other business to come before this tremendous board, we stand adjourned. Safe travels and have a great summer. Thank you all. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
lunch is.
Lunch is to